Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough. Welcome to another recap of the changes coming with Age of Sigmar 4.0. I've been doing this series for a bit now, just whenever a very notable or a meaty article for 4.0 drops, I'm going to be doing a live stream. So if you like this kind of content, click like. If you're trying to save money on any stuff going into 4th or hobby supplies that your local store doesn't have, the link in my link tree down below will show you exactly how much money you can save on anything. Anytime you use those links, it goes directly to supporting me, my wife, the channel, and it allows me to do the videos ad-free, which honestly make for a way better viewing experience. So anyway, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and do that, and we're going to jump into today's article talking about the way armies are built now in 4.0. We're getting a better idea of how sub-factions work. Now, I read through this previously, before going into this, and what it seems to be is that they wanted to divorce the idea of special rules being tied to a specific location or subtype of an army. So meaning, you ever go to an event and someone's like, these are my Knights Excelsior, because they want to use the Knights Excelsior rules, but they're painted in some weird way that is clearly representing a very specific other type of Stormcast. Happens a lot with Space Marines in 40k, where you want the rules of one thing, but narratively those rules are tied to X. And so there's a little bit of mental gymnastics. That's all gone. And essentially what it is you're going to narratively create your force. You can use whatever place you want, origin story, battle, composition. And then when you go to fight, then you're going to choose what kind of army you're bringing from the ones you have available, which we'll talk about formations here in a second. And that's basically how you get your same special rules, but they're no longer connected to narrative stuff. So, sub-factions exist, narratively, of course, but they're not mechanically tied to stuff. Anyway, let's hop into it. I am over-explaining it. Could just read it. So, here we go. Let's see. Let me turn the volume down here for me just a smidge. If you guys have thoughts, please just throw them in and I'll pause here and there. Just to recap stuff. So, the way you build your armies has changed in the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and these changes can affect everything else in the game, from the priority roll to your command point economy. We've talked about regiments, individual heroes and their retinue of units, and now it's time to look at the primary rules that govern your army: battle traits and battle formations. Got a sick picture looking at some Stormcast. This entire article, by the way, they're using Stormcast as the poster boys to go through the examples of what different kinds of armies are like. So, seems fitting, I think. Battle traits are a series of widespread abilities that are unique to your army. Some of these will feel similar to existing army rules, but they've all been tightened up and codified to work with this new ability system. For instance, Stormcast Eternals have 4 different battle trait abilities that apply to the army as a whole. While heroic actions are gone, many of these ideas live on, and their finest hour continues to power up Stormcast for a turn at a time. And then their finest hour is put here once per turn for your army. I'm assuming this means when you do this once per turn, you can pick any unit in your army in your hero phase, their finest hour. Pick a friendly Stormcast unit that has not used this ability this battle to use it. For the rest of the turn, add 1 to wound rolls for that unit's combat attacks and add 1 to its save rolls for that unit. So, interesting. I like that. So you have to pick and choose where you're going to be applying this, but that is an army-wide ability that Stormcast now have. Interesting. Scions of the Storm returns as a way to blast your gleaming silver warriors into the thick of battle on bolts of lightning, and now it applies to all Stormcast armies, rather than needing to pick between this ability and the territory holding prowess of the Stormkeeps. As a movement phase ability, it's paired with deployment abilities called the Celestial Realm, allowing you to keep your units in high Azir before the battle. So, they're basically showing us how they're articulating these things. The first one is the Celestial Realm. It happens in the deployment phase. And this one is just, as long as there are more Stormcast on the table than, in the sky, you can throw stuff in the sky. Makes sense. It actually kind of plays the same but I like the way it's written out here. And then the second ability is Scions of the Storm, which is you pick a unit that's in the celestial realm and then drop it outside 9 inches. So it's all the same. It's just, I think, very cleanly written. Rest in peace, Stormkeep. You will be missed. I mean, this is a yes and situation. We'll see. Oh, man. Elecman. Oh, no, sorry. Dr. Clownicus. GW is all in on Howled Knights as the new main guys, and I'm here for it. Same. Some battle trait abilities may be commands with an associated cost, such as Heaven Sent. This powerful once per battle ability can return a unit to the battlefield at half strength, ready to smash aside the enemies of Sigmar once again. So once per battle in your movement phase, you would have to spend a command point to do this. You pick a friendly, non-unique Stormcast Eternal infantry or cavalry unit that has started the battle with 2 or more models. Set up a replacement with half, rounding up, more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Very cool. Okay. So, all of those things, I believe they have 4 different battle trait abilities, which is what we just went through here. And so that means a Stormcast, once per battle, each unit can get a buff for the rest of the turn. Add 1 to wound rolls for that combat attacks. Okay. So you can buff 1 unit per turn. Can't be the same one twice. You can bring them in from the sky, and once per game you can return half a unit. So it looks like, assuming that that's all 4, I like it. Battle formations. Actually, I'm going to pause right there. Does anybody have any questions about battle traits? They function, I mean, it sounds like exactly like the way they do now, which is you pick your army, in this case Stormcast Eternals, and that gives you access to all your battle traits, and then you can be more specific from there. If they do decide to reintroduce some narrative aspect of rules, I'm sure it'll be tied into this, but it looks like they're trying to break away from that. I don't know. Honestly, as far as Stormcasts go, I mean, obviously they're showing us what the Stormcasts are going to have at launch, which is not the same thing as what happens when their first book comes out. So that's something to keep in mind. It could be more, could be less, there could be optional ones. They haven't given us any real insight into what battle tomes are going to look like going forward, so I'm very eager to see. But with that all out of the way, I don't see any questions. We're going to jump into battle formations. You will also pick a battle formation when constructing your army. These work like the sub-factions of old and exemplify the way a specific force might do battle. Or represent the specific tactics it employs, but they're no longer tied to a particular color scheme or location in the world, encouraging players to express their creativity and craft their own creations. Sorry, I got distracted. Dr. Clownicus, you're correct. We don't know that Stormkeeps won't be represented in some way, but the signature abilities that separate Stormkeeps and the ones coming in from Azir, that line seems to have been blurred, is what we're talking about. Rules-wise, each faction pack, the deck of cards released alongside the new edition, contains 4 battle formations. So you can lean into particular strategies and experiment with new army options from the start. Take the Thunderhead Host, which prioritizes mixing and matching units from the various chambers with its Synchronized Strikes passive ability, empowering the Warrior Chamber units in combat while they're within 12 inches of a unit from members of a different chamber. That's an interesting one. So it's a way to incentivize mixing up your armies. Thunderhead Host passive. Synchronized Strikes. Add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Warrior Chamber units while they're wholly within 12 inches of friendly non-hero Stormcast Eternal units that do not have the Warrior Chamber keyword. So you would just buddy up. Okay. So that will give you pretty good liberators. I mean, this without context of knowing what warrior chamber means in a book where they just cut a third of it. I'm just very, very curious. But yeah. Stormdrake Guard, Dracothian Guard, and other warriors and heroes of the Extremist Chamber often battle within the Lightning Echelon, their oncoming storm ability conferring 1 unit per turn the strike's first effect in combat on the roll of a 3-up. This is a kind of flexibility extends from across the factions, and we'll be seeing more of what they can do when we come to the faction focuses next month. Interesting, they threw that out there. Next month, faction focuses. Lightning Echelon is the battle company. Oncoming Storm is the trait. Pick a friendly Extremist Chamber unit that charged this turn. Roll a dice on a 3-up. It has these strikes first for the rest of the turn. Honestly, I think that's dumb. Get rid of the dice rolling. Just pick one dude. They get strikes first. That's my opinion. Why would you want an ability that just you have to randomly have a chance on? But okay, whatever. Next week, we'll be digging into the guts of the combat phase. Nice. And brushing up on the pious and the profane as we examine spell casting and prayers in the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So, that's what we got today. And this is a thing they've kind of been hinting at for a little bit as far as not doing away with sub-factions. That's the wrong idea. Not doing away with the ways that armies can be defined or described with the different, abilities they have, but rather we're no longer tying those to specific paint schemes, which frankly, I approve of. I like the idea of the same army being like, what kind of force do you need to achieve your objective? It's a cool idea. I think that's really neat. Let's see. I don't have any questions, just a comment. I'm not a fan of the fact that GW didn't make Deep Strike a universal special rule, because they could just say it for Scions, your army has Deep Strike. Yes, I suppose. I have to imagine that they kept it separate so that they could pull different levers as far as timing. So like all the rules in the Stormcast Battle Tome are all going to be timed and based off of Scions of the Storm or the Celestial Realm, because here it's bolded, which makes me think this is going to be an important standout thing in the rest of the Battle Tome, I would imagine. So having them call different things book to book might help with their internal balance instead of always citing the core rule and then having to have that be different. You just have one, in this case, Celestial Realm, that you modify. Yeah, I get that it's Deep Strike. It's annoying. The unified keyword here is deploy, but I don't know. I suspect Warrior Chamber will be the old cast refreshes. Non-ruination units will get at launch. Yeah, possibly. I know things are changing, but it seems like they are also just renaming things. Yes, I think they just recycle the names with new effects. Like, it's not the same effect that's been named something different. The problem is it's the same name, but with a different effect, which is the other way around. Having them be up in the Celestial Realm has been a thing, but I don't think it's been codified in the same way. I don't know. I'm interested. But the idea that, let's see. Govern your army. 4 different battle traits, like what a battle company is, formations. The basic way a specific force might do battle by the tactics it employs. Yeah, that's basically it. So, I mean, the way that it reads right now, because it happens in army construction, you would have already picked this all out when you roll up to an event, so it's not a reactive thing, but something you built your force around. They do confirm faction packs. The decks of cards released alongside the new edition, although everything's going to be in PDF form, so it might just be a PDF printout of the cards. The subfaction thing confuses me. Who cared about what color you paint your faction before. The problem is, honestly, I didn't. Most people don't. But when you go to an event and you have Ultramarines and you want to play them as Iron Hands, it makes people kind of wrinkle in their face a little bit. That's a 40k example, and I'm not even convinced that it was really a problem in Age of Sigmar, but I think when they make these games, they take all the language that worked really well in one, meaning 40k, and then bring them over. And I think the company wanted to separate color schemes and specific lore things from these rules as a whole. So maybe it wasn't a big deal in AOS, but it's consistent with their game development. I could see that being a reason, but I don't know. There is an aspect where the thematicness of what's happening on the table is important to a lot of folks. So I'm mixing and matching schemes. Now, when you go to like a big tournament or a GT, I don't know. It depends. It also depends on how different units are going to be. Because there are some things where it might be confusing if your paint scheme is all over the place and you're trying to represent two different specific subfactions. I don't know. There's all kinds of weird stuff you can do. And I think they're just, as a company, moving towards saying that rules don't reflect the models, and that's fine. That's fine. I like the idea of, say, Gristlegore being able to make all different kinds of armies, even though narratively they are known as like the zombie dragons and the Terrorgeist guys, but they would have access to everything, and now you're just incentivizing me, a Gristlegore player. I'm not actually, but a Gristlegore player would then be incentivized to try other stuff. So even though you have one thing you're really good at, narratively speaking, or that your faction leans into, every faction and every subfaction in AOS will be able to field a variety of forces because they have a variety of needs. So I think that's kind of the idea here. With that said, it looks like our ideas for a list building are pretty much the same. You pick a faction. Grand Alliances don't show up anywhere in this article. That's interesting to me. Those might just be moving into more of a organizational system than anything else, to be honest. But you pick that, and then you pick your army rules. Well, you get your army rules by picking the faction, and then you have to pick one of your sub-faction type things, your battle formations. Now, I'm curious if there's ways to get multiple types of battle formations into a list. I don't know. That'd be an interesting idea. So long as it's easy to keep track of, I don't really care. But friends, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this. I'll keep going ahead with these articles as people keep enjoying them. And yeah, I'm interested because they're starting the game off with 4. Each faction pack contains 4 battle form. Okay, so let's assume each faction has 4 options available to it. That's awesome. You've all been brought down to Flesh Eater Court level again. And because for some reason they didn't add more sub-factions. And so we're looking at that now. I just wonder how many haves and have-nots there's going to be from that. Like how many... You're going to have armies that have really weak battle traits but exemplary battle formations. Conversely, you can have great army rules and then just absolute hot mess of your actual formations. And it's curious to me which ones are going to double up on what's good, which ones it's just going to be like, this is all bad. Because I mean it happens. The vision of game creators, no matter how much they test, there's just some stuff that falls flat or doesn't connect with how people play. So I'm interested to see what the spread is on that, and that's something that we're not going to know until December, right? Like when we have everything released and games are in full motion, people have had time to experiment with lists, that's when that kind of information will come in. But yeah. Let's see. Have a great day. I'm pretty optimistic. Me too. Maybe after we know more, you can do a stream where you walk through making a list. I'd like that. That'd be fine. 2+, will you be playing Bone Splitters to start this new edition? No, I actually sold off my Bone Splitters about a month and a half ago. I have right now Flesh Eater Courts on the table. So we got 20 ghouls, bunch of small heroes, the base for Ushoran off to the side, and then Gloomspite Gits at the moment. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm really eyeing a few other things real hard as I look down the barrel of the new edition. So I'm just kind of curious if they do a Khorne Demon Prince model, and if Games Workshop sends me one, that's going to be real hard to ignore. I will not lie. So we'll see. That might be my new edition, new army thing. I'll probably sell off one of the other ones at that point then. But anyway, so that's what I'm looking forward to. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you in the next live article.